Welcome back, I hope all is well. Today we're going to talk about services and softwares. In particular, what services and softwares do you actually need, and which services and softwares do you not need when starting or running a private practice. Now, when I first started, I knew there were certain tools and services that I needed, like an electronic medical record. I knew I needed a way to connect with clients via video audio, like a Zoom or something like that. And there's all sorts of services and products that are marketed to private practitioners that can make us kind of confused. So today, I'm going to walk you through all of the services and softwares that I use personally in my private practice. I'm also going to talk to you about what services and softwares you really need, like which ones are required, which ones you don't need, and you don't really need to waste your time with, and then which ones you may find helpful and you might want to check out. We're going to go through all that today. Another thing to keep in mind is that I've also just started a group practice, so I will also touch on some of the softwares and services in regards to group practice as well. As always, before we get started, if you haven't done so before, please do go ahead and subscribe down below. Hit the thumbs up button on this video, but only if you want to. There is no pressure. So let's start off by talking about the services and softwares that you need to run a private practice. And the good news here is that there's only a few. In fact, you really only need one if you're not doing telehealth. So the first thing that you definitely are going to need is a EHR, or electronic health record. Some people call it an EMR, electronic medical record. At the end of the day, this is a way to store client information, notes. This is where you keep all of your records. Now, some people do paper records. However, in my opinion, this has become very antiquated, very cumbersome, and a lot more risky due to HIPAA, and it's much more risky than you actually need to be. So I would always advise people to do electronic medical records. Now, there are tons of companies who offer EMR services to therapists. Now, the purpose of this video is not to review them and talk about which one's the best. The point is that you do need an EMR, an electronic medical record. I personally use Simple Practice. I know there's been controversies about how much they charge, and they raised their prices recently. At the end of the day, Simple Practice does work for me. I do think there are other options that are comparable. You can definitely look into that on your own. I'll put a link down below. However, the point of this is that you need an EMR. So that's the first thing that you're going to need. The second software or service that you're going to need is a telehealth platform. Now, this will only be for providers who are doing telehealth, which I'd imagine is a lot of people considering how things have changed since the pandemic. Now, this is something like Zoom or Doximity. Simple Practice offers their own telehealth platform. Again, there's a whole bunch of different options to choose from. I've actually made a startup manual which includes a few of the options and talks about the pros and cons. I'll put the link to that down below in the description. And the next service or program that you're going to need is for those who are doing a group practice. If you're not doing group practice, you don't want to do a group practice, then you can skip ahead. However, if you are doing group practice and you're about to hire some people, you are going to need a payroll software. Again, I don't know if software is the right term, but it's a service, it's a tool, it's basically a web-based software. That's what I would call it. Regardless, it is a payroll service. So this is how you would pay employees, how you would onboard employees, manage taxes from payroll perspective, all that kind of stuff. If you want to learn more about this topic, I'm happy to talk more about it in future videos. Leave a comment down below. However, I did recently put out a video called How to Hire that talks a bit more about employees, W-2, contractors, all that kind of stuff. I'll link that up here somewhere. At the end of the day though, a payroll software is not optional. You need it if you are going to be running a group practice and hire employees. I personally use Gusto, and this has been really good. It works really well. Again, if you go online, you can find different issues with Gusto and people's reviews. However, for the majority of people that I've spoken to, Gusto works quite well, but you do need a payroll software if you're going to be hiring employees. And at the bare minimum, if you're just starting out, those are the only services and softwares that you need to run a private practice. That's because most of the EHRs are going to have credit card processors built in, which you can accept payments from. And that's it. That's all you need. It's quite simple. So if you're just getting started, it's that simple. Two things, EHR and a telehealth platform. And sometimes those are combined. So in the next part of this video, let's talk about the services and softwares that are not necessarily required, but services that I find to be very, very helpful and things you might want to consider. The first one is going to be a website builder, something like Squarespace or Wix, anything like that. Again, there are tons and tons of options, but having a website builder I have found to be really, really helpful. This is where you can market yourself. This is where you can post photos and reviews. A website is basically where you live on the internet. So if you have your private practice, well, then people are going to want to go to the website to find out more about this practice. Now, of course, you can post on Psychology Today and Alma and Headway and all these other places that market your practice for you. However, they are quite limited. They usually have word count limits. They have limits to photos and things like that. So having a website is going to be really important. And that's personally my opinion, especially in 2022. Especially in today's day and age, having a nice website is going to really help you stand apart from other people. Not to mention, when you hear about something, a service or a tool, don't you usually Google it and look for their website? I know that I do. So having a website is going to be helpful, not required though. Now, I personally use Squarespace, and I have made a video all about this a while back, so go ahead and check that out. That will talk to you more about the different options for website builders and what might be helpful for you where you are at. But go ahead and check that out. I think you'll find it helpful. It's up here somewhere. Now, these next two tools are in particular for my consultation business. This is not so much the clinical side and doing therapy. This is me helping other therapists start a private practice. There are two tools in particular that I've been using that I have found to be really, really helpful. I also don't see many other videos or websites talking about it, so I'm really excited to share it with you. The first one is called Memberspace. Now, to put it simply, Memberspace is basically a tool or a service. It's a web-based program that allows me to make any part of my website a membership-only area. What does that mean? So for me in my consultation business, I've written a manual all about how to start a private practice. It's really comprehensive. It took me a long time to put together. It's basically a whole entire guide on how to start a private practice from start to finish. Now, this is something I didn't want to just put on the internet for everyone to access, but it's something that I have for sale on my website. And in order to do this, I created a Memberspace section of the website. So when you buy that guide, you're actually buying access to this protected part of my website. And what Memberspace does, it allows you to have a website like Squarespace or something like that. It allows you to create a web page inside of there, and you can put anything you want. So maybe you have videos or guides. It doesn't really matter. And then protect it. And then you can sell access to that particular section. And that is something that I have found to be really, really helpful. It is kind of pricey. If you're looking to have an online course or online material that you want to sell, Memberspace would be a great way to do that. It doesn't involve any special skills or training to use. It's actually quite easy to use once you get the hang of it. At the end of the day, if you're looking to sell something, if you're looking to sell a product, you might want to check out Memberspace. As always, there's links to everything I'm talking about down below in the description. And similar to Memberspace, I am using something called SuperSite. This is a website builder that specifically allows you to take Notion pages and turn them into websites. If you're not sure what Notion is, again, I've made a video about this. I'll link it up here somewhere. But Notion is a productivity tool that is super awesome. It is so good. It's a free tool that allows you to create checklists and database. It's like a productivity tool on steroids. It's quite complex. There's tons of videos all about Notion. I'll put a few down below. At the end of the day though, Notion has this feature that allows you to take a page that you've built in Notion, and with one click, you can turn it into a website that anyone can access. However, I didn't want anyone to access these web pages. I actually use Notion to create my digital products. So I'll build my guide inside of there. I'll upload videos into Notion. And then what I do is I use SuperSite to change that into an actual website with a real domain name. And then from there, I connect it to Memberspace and it becomes a protected part of my website. Now this sounds all sorts of complex, and this is a bit of a roundabout workflow. It was really complex to figure all of this out. So I'm basically using Notion to build products, SuperSite to turn my Notion pages into web pages, and then Memberspace to protect those web pages so that they have to be paid for in order to access them. If this is something you want to know more about, I am happy to make another video about it. It would probably be quite a long video because it is complex, but the workflow works really, really well now that I know how to do it. But SuperSite, if you're using Notion, is a great way to take those Notion pages and turn them into real websites with real domain names. And this next service or software is going to be for those, again, who are doing a group practice. It's going to be recommended that you have an accounting software. Now, this is separate from payroll. This has nothing to do with paying employees, but this is basically a bookkeeping software. Like everything else, tons of options out there. I personally use QuickBooks. It's how you keep track of what comes into your bank, what goes out of your bank. You can create invoices. It's really just an accounting software that handles all sorts of accounting stuff. And I'm not really an accountant. It's not my strong suit. I have to go in and look at it to kind of tell you everything about it. But at the end of the day, it's a bookkeeping software. When you're in solo private practice, you don't really need an accounting software because your accounting is not that complex. However, if you hire an employee, especially a W-2 employee, where you're required to pay unemployment insurance and pay taxes and have payroll software, well, then you're going to need an accounting software because the numbers get very complex. It's too much to keep track of on your own, which is where the software comes in. Is it required? It is not required. You can actually keep books on your own if you want to do that. Now, you can have an accountant do it for you as well. However, the accountant that I see, he recommended getting the QuickBooks software, and so far it's been quite helpful. So finally, let's talk about what you do not need. And this one may surprise you, but what you do not need a HIPAA compliant email service. Something like Powbox or any other HIPAA compliant email service. You actually do not need this. Now, I just made a video all about this, dedicated specifically to this topic. Please do go ahead and check that out if you want to know about why you don't need HIPAA compliant email. That video will answer all your questions for you. So that's it. Those are the different softwares and services that you need, that you might find helpful, and that you do not need. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you learned something. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you soon.